Episode 47 with Carolyn Martin. Carolyn is a fantastic singer. Lived in Nashville for a long time, living in Fort Wayne, Indiana now. Great Western swing singer, and really she can sing anything. Great friend of mine, and we had a great chat. Don't forget our sponsors this week, Morning Buzz Coffee Company out of Hamilton, Ontario. They do a fantastic job there. Make sure you check them out at morningbuzzcoffee.buzz. And really like these guys and the musicians that own this coffee company. And make sure you go check them out. Leave them a message. They actually have a podcast as well. You can listen to that and find all that information at their website. Also, Music City, Canada, one of our sponsors, based out of London, Ontario. Great guys. If you need to get anything, recording equipment, drums, guitars, PA, rentals, they have it all, and they have the best prices anywhere in Canada. So make sure you go check them out online, musiccitycanada.com, and let them know that you heard about it from the In Session with Darren Walters podcast. All right, let's get rolling with Carolyn Martin. All right, we're here with Carolyn Martin, and she is live. You're at kind of the Sweetwater headquarters right now, are you not?
I am. I'm in the recording studio at Sweetwater.
Nice.
In Fort Wayne, Indiana. Very, very nice. Very nice room, a beautiful facility.
Yeah, it is nice there. I came down and I saw your husband there a couple times, and beautiful spot. It's nice to have you on the show on this super hot day.
Thank you. It's nice to be in the air conditioning.
Yeah, I know. Funny enough, I put a new air conditioner in my studio last year, and because I haven't worried about it, because every summer I'm just usually busy in our theater, so I didn't really worry about it, and it got a little warm in here. Man, I'm real thankful I put that in last year.
I bet you are.
Yeah, works really, really well. So how are you faring with everything, with the COVID situation and all that? How are things around your area?
Oh man, we're just hanging in there. David and I are very careful, about wearing the masks and when we're out in public, and he wears one to work. He fortunately is still going to work every day. My work had virtually stopped. Now I'm beginning to do some outdoor music performances for some senior groups around here. They opened up just a little bit, the senior residences for visitors. Visitors are allowed to come on a limited basis, and then I can go do music for them, 15, 20 feet away, outside. And that's been really enjoyable. I've done 3 of those. And then what has saved us is we've done 2 live streams a week from our home. And that has been so good for our mental health, and good for keeping our musical chops up. And it's motivation to practice.
Which is really good, right?
I have to have a motivator, or else I get really lazy. So it's great. People have been, I started to say calling in, but they're not calling in. They're texting in, with song requests, and maybe songs that I haven't sung in a long, long time, or songs that I've never sung that I'm practicing on and learning for the next show. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's neat that we have that opportunity to be able to do that, right? We have this free medium. Yeah. Yep. Think about that 20 years ago, and you would never have that opportunity just to do that for nothing, basically. It costs you, just hit the button, and as long as you have an internet connection, away you go.
Right. And if you had told me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that I would be able to sing in my living room and have people in Italy, Australia, Africa listening to me, they're in the moment, I, I wouldn't have believed you. I would say that's science fiction, but not anymore. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I think we're all figuring out new ways to perform and new ways to make an income as a singer or a musician or anyone in the music industry. And in some ways, I think it's good. It's kind of made us kind of rethink about what we were doing, and I think it's kind of brought everyone down a level a little bit to some extent. You know, kind of we're all almost on the same playing field, and we're just kind of almost starting from scratch again, and just let's restart and think about how to redo this again, and it's different. I mean, I think you have to look at it. It's like how can we make this a positive thing, and just keep rolling. And I've seen your shows on online, and you know, definitely really great, and you really just kind of churn them out all the time, and that's good. That's really, really good.
We get a little goofy sometimes, but yeah, you know, reinvention is not a bad thing. And I liked what you said about you know, bringing everybody down to kind of the same level. I mean, you can turn on your computer any day or night of the week and see, you know, really famous musicians in their kitchen, you know, singing for you. It's really wonderful. And another thing I think this has done is made people kind of examine their priorities. And thankfully, music is a priority.
Yeah.
For many, many people. And it's a way, it's always been a way to connect to each other, but we're connecting to each other on such a personal level now. And you know, that's a good thing.
And I think it's made a lot of people aware that people that are in the arts industry as a whole, whether they're an actor or they're a singer or a producer or an engineer, any of those things, that it actually is a viable business, and a lot of people make all of their money just doing this. And a lot of people are here just to do that. That's what they were born to do. That's all the skills they have, right? They're a musician and they live, breathe, and eat that, and they've done it their whole lives. And they could be 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever, or 20 or 30 years old. And there's not really a whole lot of room for anybody to go and learn something else. Like, you know.
Oh, I know. And you don't want me running a cash register, I promise. That wouldn't be good.
Lots of freebies.
That wouldn't be good.
Yeah. And I mean, the other good thing I think that we've heard from some people I've talked to as well, that you've had this little extra time to broaden your skills a little bit. Like you said, you're learning songs that you haven't played for years, and sometimes there's hidden gems in there, and it's made you practice more. And for me, I know I'm spending more time in my studio. I'm learning more things than I've ever had time to do before, and then really looking at things and kind of decide and you know, was I doing too much before, or was I trying to, you know, maybe I should bring things down to just one or two things and really do that. But, you know, everyone's personality is a little different, and I like kind of going full steam all the time, but it's just different. It's just a different way of looking at everything. And I think at the end of the day, we all kind of, it's like taking a stack of paper, just throwing it up in the air. Just,
yes.
That's all there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go back and chat about how you got started in the business. You're from Texas, right?
I am. I was born in Abilene, Texas, West Texas. Very, very dry and really the desert. Lots of prickly pear cactus and rattlesnakes and cows, and town of about 100,000 people. Though I didn't grow up in a small town, but pretty good sized town.
Yeah,
and lots of musicians there.
Where were you closest to, like major city closest to you?
Dallas.
Yeah.
Dallas Fort Worth, which is always mentioned. They're two separate cities, but they're always mentioned in the same breath because they've grown together. So it's Dallas Fort Worth area. But that was where we would go. My mother is from Fort Worth, and she had a sister that lived in Dallas, and so we would spend a lot of the summer going back and forth from Abilene to Dallas.
When you were growing up, when did you start? Were you singing really young?
I remember, loved listening to the radio. I was one of those kids that, hated to go to bed. And I guess I started being a night owl early, because I would be, it was time to go to bed. I went to bed, but I'd have my radio under the covers of the bed, and I would listen to it. I thought soft enough where nobody else could hear, but I'd get busted every once in a while, turn that radio off and go to bed. But I would, and my parents were playing records pretty much all the time. My dad loved music, just loved it. And so we had the big, that was when record players were giant. There were big pieces of furniture, and they had a lot of LP records, and he would play them a lot. And they would have parties, and they would have live musicians come and play for the parties. And so there was music around the house. I was lucky enough to have a horse when I was a little girl, and there was radio always playing at the stables where I kept my horse. So I heard country music out there. At home, I heard Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and Rosemary Clooney and Doris Day, Bing Crosby, and and then later the Beatles, and all the pop music, because I started buying records 12, 13 years old. That's what I would save my money for. Yeah. Was to buy. And it was such a big deal when a new record would come out, and you'd go down to the record store, and you'd saved your money for weeks and weeks, and you bought that album and you brought it home and opened it up, and that smell of the vinyl, it was just
certainly miss that nowadays, right?
Oh, I know. Vinyl is coming back. I know a lot of young people are into vinyl records, and a lot of collectors and stuff. But that was a really special thing to get a new record and bring it home. And then my parents didn't play musical instruments. My brother kind of toyed with electric guitar for a little while, but didn't stick with it. But I had friends who played music, and their parents played music. Oh, yeah. So I had the experience of going over to their houses, and they would have these big picking parties, and everybody would show up with instruments. And I had never been exposed to anything like that at all, and just absolutely thought that was the greatest thing in the world, because it is. Yeah. And everybody would sit around until late at night and play and sing and pass the guitar around, or whatever. Had a friend whose dad played just about every instrument, and he even had one of those giant bass harmonica. Oh yeah. Harmonicas. Yep. And there was a lot of music going on in Abilene.
Were you having any itch at that point? Did you think in the back of your mind that you wanted to be a singer, or that was something you wanted to do?
Definitely. And, especially when I started buying my own records and listening to Judy Collins. She was a big influence on me. Joni Mitchell was a big influence on me. Tammy Wynette, Loretta Lynn, played her own. These women played guitar and sang. Yeah. And so I wanted to play guitar. And even though I had been through several years of failed piano lessons, I still regret that I didn't learn to play the piano. But I so wanted to play guitar, and all my musical heroes played guitars, and mainly acoustic guitars. Yeah. And my parents finally relented and got a guitar for me. I'm sure that it was going to be gathering dust in just a couple of weeks. And I practiced until my fingers bled, literally.
Yeah.
And would play along with my records, but I was very, very shy and didn't want to sing in front of anybody. So I would go in the backyard and sing for my dog.
Oh yeah.
So she was a very forgiving audience.
So how old were you at that point?
13.
13, yeah.
13, 14. And started taking lessons. And that kind of helped bring me out of my shell. And then my best friend Lori plays violin, and she got us our first gig. We played at a restaurant, and I think we made $5 a piece.
Wow.
And dinner. It was a Mexican restaurant, so they fed us, and we made $5. And boy, we thought that was just the greatest thing in the world. And from there, we branched out. We got a gig at another restaurant, and about that time, I started singing because Lori encouraged me and got me to sing a couple of songs. And the floor didn't open up and swallow me. People didn't throw rotten bananas. So I realized that was something that was fun to do. And boy, as soon as I heard the applause after we would play, that I was hooked.
So what about Lori? Did she end up singing? And
she ended up being a well-known concert violinist.
Oh, wow.
And traveled all over the world. And she lives in Austin.
Yeah.
Now
that's pretty neat.
She was the principal violinist with the Austin Symphony.
Wow.
For a while, and so yeah, she did very well.
When did you branch out of your home area and started? I know you eventually moved to Nashville, but what kind of happened in between then and that move to Nashville?
Well, David Martin happened. My husband.
Yeah.
We met. Gosh, I don't know. Should I tell the year?
Sure, why not?
I mean, about 1979, we met and started playing music together. I was in several bands in Abilene at the time, and so was he. And I can't remember exactly. I think that an opportunity came up from a booking agent to go play a job in Louisiana. Yeah. Either Texas, someplace in Texas or Louisiana. I don't remember the exact town, but so we got a group together and off we went. And that was my first road gig.
Yeah.
And it just kind of kept going from there. And in 1981, David and I married and lived in Abilene for a short while. But quickly figured out that we weren't going to be making a living playing music in Abilene, as fun as the gigs that we were doing were. So we decided to try Dallas. So here we go to Dallas. We made it 6 months in Dallas.
Yeah. Things
didn't work out. Our apartment got broken into.
Oh no.
I know we came home from a gig Halloween night. And this had to have been, 1980, 83, 84. And the place had just been ransacked, and that we were just about ready to leave anyway. And that was just kind of like the final straw.
Yeah.
And so I think from there, we might have gone back to Abilene for a brief period, but we had pretty much decided that we were going to Nashville. We had friends in Nashville who were encouraging us to come, with the caveat that if we decided to make the move to Nashville, that if we weren't willing to give it at least 3 years, don't bother.
Oh yeah.
And that was very, very good advice, and I think it still is.
Yeah.
whether you're talking about Nashville or any place you would want to move and set up a base of operations for um, any field, I guess, but especially music. And we moved to Nashville in January of 1985. We struggled for a couple of years, to be sure. We were still going out on the road to make money so we could stay in Nashville.
Yeah.
Then we made the decision to sell our trailer and sell our big road PA and stay, so we would be forced to stay in Nashville. And that turned out to be a really good decision for us, because then we had to go out and find work in Nashville.
Yeah.
Which we did. And so things just progressed from there. We bought our first house, and so we had our first studio in the basement of that house.
Yeah.
And because that was David's dream for a long time, to have a recording studio. We started to do more gigs both together, and he got a couple of road gigs. He played with Shelley West, Dolly West's daughter.
Yep.
Out on the road, and Doug Stone and a couple of other artists. And then I did a lot of corporate gigs, work like that out at the Opryland Hotel. I'm sure a lot of people out there are familiar with the Opryland Hotel. And and then we moved to our house out in Jolton, built our own studio out there. And those were really good years out there, and the studio was going all the time, and it was a lot of fun.
I bet.
A lot of fun.
So moving to Nashville, when you first kind of got into town, what was that like? Obviously, we were heading out and touring a bit, but did it feel overwhelming when you got there, or did it feel very welcoming, or what was that feeling like?
I have a story about the very first night we were in Nashville. We had left. The weather was horrible. There was a big snow and ice storm just all over the route from Texas to Tennessee. Yeah. And what normally would have taken 12 to 14 hour trip turned into a 24-hour trip.
Wow. Because
of the ice and being stuck on the highway for hours at a time. Because of the weather, some roads were closed. So we get to Nashville. It had to have been 11 o'clock at night, maybe, after leaving Abilene the previous day. I mean, just we were on the road for so long, and the electricity had gone out all over the city.
Oh no!
And they had, and this never happened again. But that night they had like 14 inches of snow.
Wow!
That just doesn't happen in Nashville, Tennessee. It was this freak snowstorm, and so everything was covered with a blanket of snow. And because there was no electricity, there was just moonlight on the snow. It was absolutely beautiful. Yeah. It was one of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen. As tired as we were, and we were in our van, our old cargo van that was absolutely filled to the brim with everything we owned, and we were pulling a trailer. Oh, no. Besides that, and we had our cat. So it was the two of us and the cat with just barely room to fit in the van, that we'd been traveling in for so long to get there. Yeah. And pulled up to a hotel. And of course, the electricity was completely out, but there was a young lady at the desk who rented a room to us. And we asked her, because we hadn't eaten in probably at that point, at least 12 hours.
Wow.
And we asked her if there was any place to get some food. And she said all the restaurants are closed around here, but she said, I tell you what, my dad's coming to pick me up. I'll give him a call and tell him to bring you some food. And we just couldn't believe it. We said, well, that would be unbelievably kind. And sure enough, 25 minutes later, her dad shows up with a bag of hamburgers. He had found a Crystal's hamburger somewhere that was still open. Okay, only one in Nashville that was still open, or else they were selling food that was still warm or something. But somehow this bag of hamburgers showed up, and of course the man wouldn't take any money for it. And so that was our welcome to Nashville. And we looked at each other and said, if that's the kind of place this is, we can stay here,
I guess.
And so we stayed in that hotel room for a couple of days, and we had to walk wherever we needed to go because the roads were all covered with ice. So we rented an apartment within walking distance of the hotel.
Yeah.
And stayed there a couple of years. And it was one of those old places built in the 1920s, and it had radiator heat. So the wintertime was wonderful. It had no air conditioning, so the summertime was awful.
Oof. Yeah.
It was a wintertime apartment, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So at that time, obviously you probably eventually started to work around town, around Nashville. And obviously the music scene is a little different then than it is now around town.
Yeah.
What was that? What was your kind of first couple of gigs in Nashville?
Our very first one was at a place called Cajun's Wharf, which is long gone. It was a big restaurant down by the river. In fact, it was in after the restaurant left, it turned into a nightclub, and it got completely flooded in the big 2010 flood. Mm-hmm. And just about, the building was destroyed. But that was, they had happy hour groups that played every day, and then they would have headliners at night. And you would go in there at night, and there would be a 12-piece band on stage with horns and the whole deal. It was like a showroom. And so we played happy hour there like 5 nights a week. We got that job just right off the bat, and which was wonderful because that enabled us to survive and to stay there.
What type of music were you playing? Was it kind of a variety of things, or?
We were playing country songs, pretty much the top 40 country of the time.
Yeah.
The songs that we still play, but they were new.
New back then.
Yeah.
Isn't that always the way, right? It's sort of like there seems to be a time period in everyone's lives where everything's new, and then that's the music you still either listen to or perform or enjoy the most. It's sort of, you get to a certain age and it kind of, your new listening kind of stops. You kind of know what's going on, but there's that area that kind of just seems to be your favorite, right? That's your, usually 20s to mid 30s is that era that works really well. That
is absolutely true. And I think it's partly because back then we had time to just absorb new music. You would get a new record, or you would hear a new song on the radio, and you would just, or I would, I don't know that everybody does this, but you would just listen to it until you knew it inside out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the new music that it's great. I love it, but I don't know it like I knew those songs, back then, with the exception of the musical Hamilton, which I have memorized the whole thing.
I haven't seen it yet. I know it came out on Disney a couple of days ago, and I've been wanting to watch it. So
I'm obsessed.
Are you?
I've seen it in the theater 3 times, and then I saw it on Disney Plus the other night. Not meaning to give a commercial, but
is it worth seeing it on TV?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll be I'll be watching it again. It's really it's like having a front. It's like you're on stage, the with the camera angles that they used and the number of cameras that they used. It's amazing.
Oh,
it's
that's
amazing.
neat. I'll have to watch that for sure. Now, you were mentioning, in that time you'd really get to know the songs, but I think you really get to know a whole album, right? You listen to everything, and nowadays it's sort of like there's a song, it's kind of a hit, and bam, you're on to something else. You don't tend to listen over. There's not even available a whole album, or there seemed to be the albums back then where it was like a book, right? It was all intentional. You pick the amount of fast songs, and there was a certain amount of slow songs, and there was a certain particular order you put everything in. It was a lot of time, thought, and all that stuff. And you'd got to know everything on that album. Nowadays, it's not like
meant to be listened to from start to finish in that order. Yeah. Very carefully constructed that way.
Nowadays, if you had satellite TV or even cable TV, there's so many channels that you can't watch everything. And the same with music. There's so much, and there's so much available to you at every single turn. It's impossible to really stay or stick with one thing for any length of time, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, look over here, oh, look over there, and I can see this, oh, I can see that, and there's like, and back then, like you said, you used to buy an album, you used to save up, used to be bring it home when you would listen, and you didn't have all these other distractions that would pull you away. But there's good and bad with everything, but I miss those days of getting an album and getting to know the whole thing from front to back.
I did have that experience not too long ago, though. Again, it was a CD, but I mentioned Judy Collins as a big influence, and she's so inspiring. She's still performing, and the last album that she made just this last year, I just could not stop listening to it. I know that one backwards and forwards. I mean, it was just like that experience again.
Yeah.
And having that, so
excellent.
You can still do it.
Yes. Yeah. It just
you just have to make time. You have to make time now.
Well, we have the time now. That's for sure.
Well, that's true. That's true.
It's time to start making albums again.
Yeah. What? One thing about the lockdown, quarantine, whatever you want to call it. It's funny, the things that when it first happened, I thought, oh well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and my house is going to be clean all the time, and not so much.
Yeah, I think everyone was gung ho at the beginning. So, I have this this time, and I know here at the house we went top to bottom clean, like it's never been cleaned before. And since then it's sort of like okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
I thought for sure, we're starting a new thing here, but no.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. But boy, for that first 24 hours though, it was really clean.
Yeah. I think everyone had the same thought, right? Everyone I talked to, they were cleaning their house because that's the first thing you thought.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And Goodwill or whatever is inundated with things that people have cleaned out of their closets and drawers, and me too. I took a carload.
Yeah. We did that. We actually got a dumpster. We had so much stuff.
Oh, well.
We got a lot of stuff. There's nothing left here, and that's probably why. So when did you? How did the move over to the Time Jumpers happen? It's got to be a good story there.
That was almost by accident. We had been hearing about the Time Jumpers, and of course, Western swing was something I've been listening to since I was a teenager in Abilene. I used to hear it on the radio, and there were a couple of clubs in Abilene that featured Western swing bands, 6 nights a week, sometimes 7 nights a week. And when I, back then you could go into the bars at 18.
Yeah.
So when I was old enough, I started going into the bars and singing in the bars. I was singing a lot of Western swing and a lot of country music. And so it was something I loved, but I never, it was just part of the repertoire, and I never thought that I could ever be in a band that was what they exclusively played. I mean, that would have just been wonderful, and it turned out it was. But so years pass, and it's about 1999 in Nashville, and we had been to the station in a time or two, and we'd been hearing through the grapevine of this band called the Time Jumpers, and our friend Andy Reese was in the Time Jumpers. Our friend Jeff Taylor was in, and both those guys are still in the Time Jumpers.
Yep.
And they had invited us to come out a couple of times, and so we finally went out they played every Monday night at the Station Inn, and we went, and at that time there were probably 9-10 people in the band, and there were maybe 25 people in the audience.
Yeah.
So but we just thought it was just unbelievable that there was a band with twin fiddles and steel guitar and playing all those great songs. And so they invited me to sit in that night. I think I sang Faded Love with them.
Yeah.
And on the way home in the car, I told David, I said, gosh, wouldn't that be fun to have a band like that, or be in a band like that? And so we went back, probably a month later. They invited me to sit in again. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call. The lady that was the original vocalist in the band was going to be out of town for a month. And her name is Adie Gray, fantastic singer. And she said, I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to miss 4 Mondays. Are you interested in filling in? And, well, yeah, I am. So I did that 4 Mondays in a row, and worked really closely with Hoot Hester. And Hoot, unfortunately, is not around anymore. He passed away several years ago. But he was one of the founding members of the Time Jumpers. Hoot and Dennis Crouch, the bass player, founded the band. So they had been together for maybe a year and a half when we first heard them. And so, I did the month with them, the 4 Mondays. Then Adie came back. We went out to see him a couple of more times, and then Adie left the band. Hoot called and said, would you like to come sing with the Time Jumpers? And it was just like I'd won the lottery.
Okay.
And every Monday night, and Johnny Cox was in the band at that time.
Yeah.
He was the steel guitar player, and it was just it was so much. It was like Christmas and New Year's and birthday all together, just every Monday night. And little by little the crowd increased, and then Kenny Sears' wife Dawn Sears, who also tragically lost not that many years ago, she started singing with us. And then there were 11 of us in the band, and they had 3 fiddle players. And we made the DVD in 2006, I think. And by that time, John Huey was the steel player.
Yeah.
And that was the last recorded material of John Huey playing with the Time Jumpers, because he died not too long after the the DVD came out.
Wow.
So yeah, and I stayed until 2010. And by that time, David and I had put our own swing band together, and we were wanting to travel and go out on the road. And we started going out on the road with Jason Petty, which was how we ended up at the Walters Family Theater.
Yeah. With the group, how often were you churning out new material all the time, where you have to learn lots of new stuff, or was it?
We were notorious for not rehearsing very much, but we, some new songs did come into the repertoire, but there were a certain number of things that you just did every time, like San Antonio Rose, and Dawn sang that incredible version of Sweet Memories. I mean, we did that every Monday. And Roly Poly, those people, some people are saying what
Yeah.
But if you're familiar with Western swing music, these are like the standards. Faded Love, San Antonio Rose, Roly Poly, stuff like that. So there were a lot of instrumentals, but there was so much energy on stage and in the audience. And after the really previous to the DVD, the crowds had increased to the point where people were being turned away every Monday night, and they couldn't let any more people in because it was against the fire marshal regulation, and that was just really really crazy. And famous people started showing up. Robert Plant was in one night. I met Bonnie Raitt there. I met Kelly Clarkson there, Nora Jones, Jimmy Buffett, B.J. Thomas came to sing with us. Larry Gatlin would drop in to sing with us. Just crazy. Jack White would drop in every once in a while.
And the cool thing, I'm sure half the audience was filled with other musicians. And
absolutely. I think at least half the audience was other musicians and singers.
Now, was that a lot of pressure, knowing that when you always have a gig and there's a musician in the audience, always be pressure? But when you had a lot of musicians coming all the time, what was that like? You just get used to it?
I was having too much fun to think about that.
Yeah,
really. I honestly didn't think about it. Now the night that Bonnie Raitt was there, I mean, she's like the queen. I was a little nervous when I found out that she was there, but I went over on the break. I went over to talk to her, and she was just as nice as she could be. And no, I just never even thought about that. Just mainly, there were 11 of us, so it wasn't just me standing up there by myself.
Yeah, it got spread around.
Maybe I would have been nervous in that context, but when you had those guys backing you up, the only way something was going to go wrong is if I did it.
Yeah.
So, and I did. Occasionally I've made mistakes, but it was just so much fun. The music was so much fun. Western swing music is by its very nature just happy. It makes people happy.
It certainly does.
Everybody be tapping their feet, and Jimmy Buffett came up to sing San Antonio Rose with us.
Oh,
how cool is that?
No kidding. So then you started going out on the road with your own swing group, and working with Jason Petty, who's been up here as well, and I've done a bunch of work with. So what was that transition like, getting back out and starting that as something different?
Well, it wasn't that big of a jump, because we had been, we've been playing on the road with different bands and as a duo for since 1979.
Yeah.
So the difference was the venues that we were playing. Jason primarily works in theaters, and that was I loved it. I loved getting into town at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, doing the setup, doing the sound check, doing any rehearsal that we needed to do. Hanging out in the dressing rooms uh, and meeting the people at intermission, and that growing up and as a young musician, playing in bars and playing in a lot of hotel lounges. I mean, that's what we did for years. We traveled around and played. I mean, we did the Holiday Inn circuit. We actually did. Some people think that's a not a real thing, but it was. We played all over the United States, and we'd go and stay someplace for 2 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, and then move on to the next place. But the reason I brought that up was when you play in a place like that, most of the people that come to hear you, or most of the people that come to the club are not there to hear the music.
Yeah.
They're there to wind down after a day at work. They're there to have a drink. They're there to meet someone. They're there for every other reason, and the music is like a backdrop.
Yeah.
And it's not that people don't enjoy the music, but it's not the primary reason for them being there. When you play in a theater, people have bought a ticket for their seat. They are there to see the show. And you had better put on a good show because those people spent their hard-earned money to be in those seats. And that when the lights go down, it's all about the music. And same situation at the Station Inn. And it's magic. It's just magic.
It is nice once you start working in theaters and doing that market. The situation's always good. It's a nice setup. But usually there's not too many ugly theaters out there or not well-kept theaters. It's always nice, and there's always a good place to hang out, and there's always a nice dressing room or green room, and the crowds are always great. And it's
nobody's going to have one too many gin and tonics, and
no, it does happen every once in a while.
Chairs. It does happen every once in a while. That's true. That's true. But
really stand out if it does.
Yeah.
It was funny when you mentioned the Holiday Inn circuit, because I did a podcast with T. Graham Brown last week, and he talked about
my God,
doing the Holiday Inn circuit too, and he kind of talked to him. Yeah, it's the Holiday Inn circuit. It really was the Holiday Inn circuit. It's like, yeah. And I remember years ago traveling down to Florida, even on the I-75, and you'd see the Holiday Inns, and they would see all the marquee of who was playing there that week, and a lot of the hotels had those lounges. That was a big deal for quite a while.
I know we played quite a number of them where it said on the marquee lunch buffet.
Oh yeah.
So we used to introduce ourselves as lunch buffet every once in a while, or free beer tomorrow. That's what the sign would say.
Yeah, it's a good name for a band.
It was. But T. Graham Brown, he's a sweetheart. I remember doing in Nashville. I'm sure they still do this. The musicians union would get a bunch of people together to sing Christmas carols at several places around town, and you'd get on the bus and make the circuit and do Christmas carols at 7-8 different places. And I remember doing several of those with T. Graham Brown, and
neat. I
think the world of him. He's wonderful.
Yeah, it was a fun chat. I always loved his singing, and really, really cool guy. So lots of time in Nashville and working with Jason and touring around all over the place, doing your swing show, and you did Patsy Cline as well with Jason. I know you did that up here as well, and eventually things came around, and you and Dave decided to do a move out of Nashville.
We did.
Yeah.
That was a big jump. We had been in Nashville for 31 years.
Wow.
And had the recording studio out in Jolton, Tennessee, and have had and have many dear friends there, but the business was changing. It was getting harder and harder to keep business in the studio, and all of a sudden, David gets offered this job at Sweetwater Music in the recording studio, doing what he had been doing all along, with the difference being that if something breaks down, it's not his responsibility to fix it.
Yeah.
So we had a group of friends up here already in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm talking about, if you're not familiar with where Sweetwater Music is. And Sweetwater Music is the one of the largest music merchandisers. So chances are, if you're a musician, or if you have a church or anywhere where you need PA equipment, chances are you've ordered something from Sweetwater at some point, or maybe you order everything from Sweetwater. It was the offer that was too good to refuse, and so we sold our house there. David started working here July 5th, 2016. So he just celebrated his 4th anniversary here, and I didn't know what was going on as far as the local music scene was concerned.
Yeah,
and pleasantly surprised at how much the arts are valued here, and how much of a music scene there is. Maybe I should say it was, but we got a gig, right away, once a week, at a room here that sadly has gone away. They decided to close for good during the lockdown, but when we get to the other side of this, and we will get to the other side of this, there's going to be a new normal. Things aren't going to be like they were, because things are never like they were. And there will be other places to play.
Yeah, and I think as a duo with you and Dave, there's probably going to be a whole lot more opportunity than there ever was, because it's not, everyone's not going to be diving into the deep end and spending a lot of money on big shows and anything with big production and all that stuff. I think it's shows like yours and people who can really entertain and keep things to a minimum, that will do really well. That's what people are going to want to get out and see, and it's safe for everybody. So that's
the thing. I'm not in a hurry.
No.
I want the situation to be safe. I don't want someone to come out and see me at the risk of their health.
Yeah, and things now obviously are really ramping up across the U.S. and Texas and Florida, and I think everyone just thought that things are just going to open up and get back to normal, and it's gotten really scary. Actually, we've been really good up here. We've not opened anything up too much at all. I think the couple of days ago we had no deaths in all of Canada.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. There have definitely been mistakes made on this side of the border, but we're just going to keep hanging in there. And
well, you are a big country, and it's different in every area too. But it's hard, and you almost still have to think of it as one big area, right? And little steps, maybe you can open up, some smaller things a little ahead of other places, but not too far. And
right.
And I see a lot of people trying to make things happen, and it's too bad, because you have to. I mean, a lot of people, that's their life. They depend on making money, performing, or if you're a tech person or all those things, you're just sitting around. You want to have to try to do something, but not to the point where it's going to delay things another couple more months or another 3 or 4 months.
Oh, I know. I understand believe me, I understand the frustration. but just patience,
Yeah.
patience, because
That's all you can do.
it's just not worth it. It's all, yeah.
What are your plans now as far as if you're looking ahead into the future? I know it's hard to think about with COVID going on, but what were your plans on what you want to be doing with your career, and do you have anything new that you've been wanting to try, or new albums that you've been wanting to record and work on?
Well, we've been talking about doing another album project, and maybe back in 2004 we recorded an album called "The Very Thought of You," which was a lot of American songbook pop songs from the 40s and 50s, and we got really good response on, and still do. That one still sells, and it was done with piano, bass, drums, and guitar, and really enjoyed making that one. So we've been talking about doing a continuation of that, another set of songs like that, and maybe with just piano, bass, guitar, and vocal, and drums on some things, and maybe not on other things, and we would like to do that. We really enjoy doing the music festivals, and we were disappointed in that we had 4 festivals that we were supposed to do this summer, spring and summer, that have, of course, canceled, and completely understand that. And they all have said they want us back for 2021. If things are good, by then, able to go by then. And we will continue to do our live stream things. We've really become fond of those, and it's a big part of our week. The Wednesdays and Sundays, it's like, okay, Wednesday is show day, Sunday is show day. So it's been a lot of fun preparing for those every week, and seeing what people have requested. It's really entertaining to see the requests that people come up with. And we try to do all of them, but we can't do all of them. But
now, do you going back a little bit here? I was going to ask you too. Do you miss not being in Nashville, in that surrounding area? Is that much of a change, or do you miss that too much?
It was a big change, but like I say, we had a core group of friends here, and we've made so many new friends here. So yes, I would be lying if I said I didn't miss Nashville, because I lived there longer than I lived anyplace else in my life. I mean, 31 years of my life was spent there. I lived there longer than I lived in my hometown. And I will always think of Nashville as my home. But Fort Wayne is my home now. But I had definitely had some of the best musical experiences of my life in Nashville. I mean, period, musical or otherwise. But you just can't go back. You have to move forward. So and that I would think, if nothing else, COVID and the lockdown and everything has taught us that. You
can't be afraid of
you can either
anything.
give up, right? You can either give up, or you can keep going and reinvent yourself or your situation.
Very true. And I think there's some fun in reinventing. It's
oh, definitely. Definitely.
It's stressful, but it's fun. Yes, it makes you I think you get content in what you do, and this is who I am, this is what I do, and you don't really think of, why do I have to stretch my boundaries at all. And then now you have to think, oh, I have to stretch my boundaries now. And it's
that is so true. And I won't say we, but I get complacent, and so this thing has shaken me up in more ways than one, and in a good way, I think.
Yeah.
So
definitely. So
I'm kind of excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it's a good time to learn new songs and keep practicing and
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So a couple questions I always like to wrap up on. One of my favorites is asking performers, is there any place out there that you've never performed at, a venue that you've always wanted to perform at, but you haven't had the chance yet?
Oh gosh. Wait, it's Carnegie Hall. It sounds cliche, but
No.
yeah. Yep. Carnegie Hall.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it?
It is.
It doesn't get much bigger than that. Have you played the Ryman or
I have.
Yeah.
I have. When I was with the Time Jumpers, I had the pleasure of playing at the Grand Ole Opry several times, at the Ryman, and then we did it several times out at the Opry House.
Yeah.
Before the flood, and also one of the best experiences ever. I was able to play at the Country Music Hall of Fame for the dedication of Cindy Walker's song catalog into the Country Music Hall of Fame. And that, this was several years after her death, and she had, in her will, she had left all her song catalog to the Country Music Hall of Fame. And the Time Jumpers performed, and I got to sing You Don't Know Me,
Oh, nice.
which was her, famous songs. And
Yeah.
So, yeah, if I hadn't played the Ryman, I would have said the Ryman for sure, or the Opry House, or Bass Hall in Fort Worth. But I got to play Bass Hall
cool.
actually twice with Jason. So yeah, and if you ask me that question next week, I might say any street corner in any town USA, or I'm ready to play.
That's the other thing. I don't think people are going to have to be too picky in where they play as well. Especially the ones who were very picky, and I think that readjustment is going to be interesting as well. There's going to be a lot of people who all of a sudden become available that never were available.
I know, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I heard somebody talking on the radio a week or so ago, and they were talking about one of the live streams they had seen with like two really famous women. Maybe Sheryl Crow. It was Sheryl Crow and another artist who was just starting out. Yeah. And the two of them got together to do this live stream thing. And the person who was talking about it said, if this had happened last year, this would have required phone calls and agents and managers, and it would have required all these steps to get this to happen. This time it required a text message,
Yeah.
And then they were on a Zoom call together, yeah. And I heard, this was several months ago, but Alicia Keys gave out her phone number on social media.
Oh wow.
So people could call her and request songs, or which was incredibly generous, and scary.
Yeah.
But she did. And everybody. There have been a lot of really cool things to come out of this.
Yeah, definitely. Is there one more question, or we'll wrap up? Is there anyone out there that you haven't had the chance to meet that's kind of on your bucket list as well? It's like, oh, if I ever had a chance to meet this person or sing with this person.
Man. There's I've met Bonnie Raitt. She was like, and I met Judy Collins.
Oh, cool.
Stephen Stills. I would like to meet Stephen Stills. He was a big influence on me. And James Taylor.
Yeah.
I think
there's a lot.
Dozens of others.
Yeah.
But those two spring to mind.
Excellent.
Of people that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting.
Excellent. Two good ones. Well, thank you for spending your time and getting us to find out a little bit more about you. And where can people find you on the socials and all that stuff they wanted to find out and see your shows and on Facebook?
Our Facebook is Carolyn Martin Music on Facebook, and our live streams are available to anyone. You don't have to be a friend. You can go to Carolyn Martin Music on Facebook, and tune in Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Sundays 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. My website is carolynmartinmusic.com.
Yep.
There you go.
How long do you do your shows for? Your live shows?
2 hours. 2
wow,
hours.
That's a long time.
And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Every time, I'm not keeping track of the time. David is looking at the computer, reading the text or some of the texts that come in. We have to wait until after the show to read all of them. But I have no idea what time it is. And every time he says we have time for one more song, I honestly think that we've been going about 45 minutes and we've done 2 hours.
Awesome.
It goes by so fast.
Yeah.
So fast. And, the first couple of ones that we did, it was super strange just playing to that little lens on the iPhone.
Yeah.
But because of all the people who text in and people who text me personally, after the show or email me, and just all the love we get from people, and all over the world, I really can feel the people there, when we do the things. It's not like I'm just singing into the air or singing into that phone. It's like they're there with us.
Do you ever think, why didn't we do this before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Sure do.
Yeah. It's
how long has this been going on,
And I hope it continues once everyone starts playing out again, that everyone will keep the shows up, because I think it's really good. I mean, it really broadens your audience too and makes people, I think the thing is you get to know somebody too. If you watch all the time, you feel it's like watching someone on TV. They almost become a star to your eyes, right? Because someone you see all the time, and it's on kind of a TV.
You're a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you want to go see them when you come out to their area. So it's pretty neat.
I know we're gonna continue it as long as we can.
Yeah.
It's become a big deal to us.
Good. Well, stick with me here. I'll just wrap up. I appreciate you spending your afternoon here and enjoyed it. And make sure you say hello to your husband,
pleasure.
Dave, there. And I know he's slaving away behind you in the studio.
Over a hot console.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good thing it's not outside. But hopefully we'll get you see you up here at the theater or up here in Canada again too. We really enjoyed your time up here. It was so much fun.
Oh, I would love that. I would love it.
Yeah, we
can't wait.
Had some good time, especially I miss seeing Rory too.
Oh man, that guy, he's amazing. I don't know if you've seen any of his posts or live streams, but he's got some things that he's been doing.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen his YouTube of the 12 Days of Christmas
I don't
that he
think
put
I've
out
seen that.
last year.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I know it's July.
Yeah.
But you owe it to yourself to go on YouTube, search for Rory Hoffman, 12 Days of Christmas. I won't tell you anything about it. You just have to see it. I would ruin it if I told you anything about it. It's all instrumental. I can say that. It is a must see.
Well, I'll check that out.
It will make your day.
Yeah, I'll have to share that one too. Perfect. All right, well, hang on, and we'll wrap up. Thanks again, and make sure everyone check out Carolyn Martin on the socials and say hello and check out the shows. And well, as I said, I hope to see you real soon.
Okay, take care.